Okay, alright guys, I've got the thing that is gonna save my ass. Literally save my ass. You know, ever since I've moved my workstation into the closet here, just to turn this place into a studio of some sorts, I've had the inability to stand up at my desk. Because I had to alter my desk to fit in there, so there wasn't enough room for my computer on top of my desk anymore. And it's been on a chest of drawers under there. Now my cables aren't long enough for the computer to stay there and for the desk to rise. And since I've been sitting at my chair all this time instead of standing, my once plump, juicy butt sacks, my once plump, juicy butt cheeks are now flat from sitting. But thanks to this little contraption here, which is an under the desk Mac Studio mount, my flat cheeks will now be pumped full and luscious once again to their full capacity.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
And if you're wondering what kind of rig a professional YouTuber slash gamer uses, you can go ahead and check out the stats to this little bad boy right here. Let's get into setting up the rig here so I can finally stand at my desk and not die from gluteus reduction. Let's get started. Oh yeah, here's a live example of how it works, eh? How does that slide into there? God, please. I'm stupid. Nope. Okay. Wait. Get a close up of that insertion. Yeah, okay. Goes up right here. Yeah, wham bam. Bob's your mom or your uncle or whoever. Where's my freaking pin? You guys hear this music that's playing? This is my song. And when I say my song, I don't mean I made it. I mean, somebody made it for me. So if you like it, leave a comment saying, hey, I like that. And also go give my friend Micael Foster a follow on socials and things because he made it and he's really cool and he's an awesome musician. Found a crunchy chickpea under here. All right, enough of that. We can put this stuff into action. This is the fly test. This will determine if this actually worked or if my whole world and my computer are about to come crashing down. I'll see you on the other side of Fat Assdom. Welcome back to another video. First of all, I want to apologize to my brother-in-law. He watches all of my videos, and the last two videos have had a lot of ass gags, and so I just want to say sorry for dealing with my ass gags. I'll try to do less of those. The last video had just a lot of ass gags. It's different when some strangers watch me, but when my brother-in-law watches me, I think it's not weird for me, but I just feel like it's weird to him. Anyway, the topic of this video is going to actually be a movie review. I don't know about you guys, but like I've seen a few movies. Like I've seen one or two. I really like them. And one of the things that me and my friends enjoyed doing was finding like cheap or like bad movies that you could find in like a bin somewhere, like whether it's like Walmart or like a dollar store type thing, like finding like some bad movie and like watching it just kind of for the purpose of roasting it. Like we grew up watching Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Why were you choking the monkey? Because Bobo's such a... Hey.
Are you coming or do I swim alone?
Yes and yes.
So the way we watched movies was based on that. Like the idea was to find some bad movie and roast it. Even when we were watching serious movies, we were always sort of like picking it apart a little bit. Like always sort of having like an annoying take about the movie. Even when I'm watching movies now, I'm always getting like slightly annoyed by certain things. Whether it's like a continuity error or like a plot device that I like kind of hate or something that's like relies way too much on like coincidence. Like those are the kind of things that always like bother me. Even high budget movies sometimes just like irk me with the way that the story is presented. I'm not an expert like script writer or anything like that, but I do happen to write for a living. So continuity, opening and closing story loops, having a narrative that follows through the entire story that anybody can follow. Like these are all things that are like very important to me. So when I'm watching movies, I'm often looking for those kind of things. Even just recently, I watched Frozen for the first time, like fully. Like I've seen bits and pieces throughout the years, but I've never like sat down and fully watched it. I've always been more of a Tangled boy, just to be honest. I was like, wow, for the past like 10 years, it's always seemed like Elsa was going to be like the main character, but she's really not. Like Anna is 100% the main character. She has the character arc. She has like a guiding force to help her achieve success in the movie and through her story. And honestly, like Elsa is kind of like the protagonist of that entire movie. Those are the kind of things that I think about, and as I'm like watching movies, I'm not like just enjoying them. I'm like thinking about the plot and how it works together and trying to like understand it from that standpoint. As I started thinking about like what makes a bad movie kind of bad, I realized that a lot of those plot points that I mentioned, plot devices and continuity errors and like weak script or poor dialogue or weird transitions, like those are the kind of things that I can kind of like point out because I understand those kind of. And I was really inspired to do this because of Drew Gooden. Obviously, like if you're watching me, you probably know Drew Gooden. I don't mean like me and him are like friends, but I think like if you found me on the internet, you've probably also found Drew Gooden. But he did a review of a movie called Daddy Can't Dance, aka White People Can't Dance. And it's honestly one of my favorite videos of his. I've watched it so many times. Like I have to watch this movie. I have to find this movie and watch it. When I was watching it, like there's so many good bits of this movie that he didn't talk about that I want to talk about because they fall into sort of these three sins that I'm thinking of, which are continuity errors, like weak script or poor dialogue, and relying on plot devices to move the story forward. This movie does this so well. So this will be the beginning of a series I like to call Yapping About Movies. And we're gonna be starting with Daddy Can't Dance. This movie could have done a really good job. It's sort of like a wacky Disney Channel movie, honestly. Like it's not far off from what could have been. It could have been a great like Disney Channel movie. There are a few like over the top physical like special effects type gags throughout the movie. There's like 3 or 4. And if it would have added a lot more of that in there, I think that it would have definitely stood up against some Disney Channel movies. Pete, who is the star of this movie and also wrote it and probably maybe also funded it, he's actually like kind of funny. I mean, he's like a goofy dad. He would have been the perfect goofy Disney Channel dad. And he's just sort of the whole time like making jokes and very like over the top like physical gags and stuff. And he would have been a great actor for a Disney Channel movie. My theory is that it started out as White People Can't Dance. Is it called White People or White Men Can't Dance? So the movie is called Daddy Can't Dance, but after it actually starts, it's called White Men Can't Dance. I feel like later in the years, he realized that it was kind of had potential to be more of like a family-friendly kind of movie. And if he turned it to Daddy Can't Dance versus White Men Can't Dance, it would have the chance to actually like grow as a family-friendly type movie. It's a movie about a dad trying to win money in a dance competition to save his daughter who needs a kidney transplant. So the intro starts out with like the first continuity error because this is not something that ties in really anywhere at all except in the movie, and it doesn't make sense. Which is actually why I think this could be a great Disney Channel movie if more of the magic sort of played into it. It starts out with this person like painting outside, and everything that they paint turns to life. They start painting, the movie begins, so you're led to believe that they painted the movie. And nothing else is ever magical or anything until the very end when this person like paints over the last scene of the movie and ends it. And they say, that was fun, wonder what I'm gonna draw next.
That was fun, I wonder what I'm gonna draw next.
The whole premise is that this person painted this movie, that this person has some sort of magical paintbrush, or they're like telling stories through their paintbrush or whatever. It doesn't make sense. You could cut out the beginning and ending of that and the movie would be exactly the same. There's no magic that is like carrying the movie throughout. So we have our first physical gag, which is Pete putting a marshmallow in his mouth and steam comes out of his ears. So his wife is laughing at him and he says, you better watch your backside tonight, honey. And then there's an awkward transition to, I can only assume hours later because she's asleep, but yet Pete is still wearing his like dress shirt and tie, like he hasn't changed. So kind of a weird transition, but the transitions that happen because the script has not really been like thought through or hasn't really been like critiqued in any real way. Because what happens is you have these pockets of ideas, like Pete comes home, eats a marshmallow, he scares his wife asleep, and then they're laying in bed after having like a marshmallow fight or whatever. Again, like we haven't thought through how these transitions would work. You better watch your backside tonight, honey. The next scene is him scaring her. Like there was no dialogue or anything between that deleted there. It wasn't like a callback. It was like immediately when this joke was written, it had to be executed right away. And that kind of plagues this movie. That's sort of the biggest issue with this movie. Continuity errors are number one. But the second thing is just like these pockets of ideas that are just slammed together with not a lot of thought of how they flow together. There's a story loop open and it's either immediately closed or it's like a story loop is open and another story loop is open inside and it keeps going and it never like fully closes. And there's all these things just sort of left open that we don't ever like understand. As Pete's day starts, he walks into his office and there is assumably a new person who just started working there and she's coughing and Pete is like, is this one smoking again?
This is Della.
Are you okay?
Della.
She's been smoking again.
I don't smoke.
I think like those are like, it's kind of like a funny joke. Like he's kind of got like the goofy like dad, like he's definitely like clown of the office, right? Like he's the humor that's holding all the office together. But then right after that, there's another physical gag that I watched, no lie, 20 times. Like not even when researching this movie. I just watched it like 20 times just for fun. There's so many things about this that I don't understand. Pete's boss asked him to bring the fire extinguisher to him because the fire marshal says that the fire extinguisher has expired. And then this happens.
Is this it, boss?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not funny. It's one of those times where I've watched it so many times that it's just gotten funnier and funnier every time I watch it, and it's not funny at all. But it's so funny because I don't know what's going on. Is this woman the fire marshal? Who is this woman? I understand that sometimes characters are introduced and you may not like hear about them ever again. Like it's just kind of part of like the world building. This woman plays like such an important part of this gag and I don't know who she is. Is she the fire marshal or does she just work there? Does she just happen to be walking by and wanted to like play a joke on Pete? I'm gonna chalk this up as, actually I won't chalk this up as a sin. I think this entire scene is amazing. All right. Oh God, the battery's about to be exhausted. So the next scene is his dad and his mom having an exchange, a very steamy exchange. And I just have to say, if his dad knew he was going to be dead in the next day or two, he probably wouldn't have treated her this way. Spoiler alert, he's going to die soon.
Are you ready?
Go to your room and color your hair and wash it and get ready because we're having company in about 1 minute.
I'm in the mood for love.
Oh my God.
Then this scene is probably one of the most confusing scenes in terms of dialogue that kind of goes nowhere. It leaves you with like a lot of questions. One of the biggest issues with dialogue and continuity in these lower budget movies is they come up with an idea or a thought and maybe they just don't have the budget to pay a subject matter expert or they're not sure how to like research it enough for themselves, but they'll come up with something to kind of push the plot forward and never explain it and everything is just left like very vague and out in the open. A Talking Cat is a good example of this because the whole time you just hear about the dad's company and his software and his program and code and all of these things, and it's never really explained what the company does, what is the software, what is the code. All we know is that it's like some sort of computer code that he built in this whole company, and he's like super rich and he sold it and he sold the code that he worked half his life on. But you never really know what it is that they're talking about. And this scene does this it does it really well. It confuses the absolute shit out of me. So Pete walks in and asked him if he's came up with any new inventions, and his dad says, it was raining the other night and I came up with an idea for a new high-speed device. What is a high-speed device?
You know when it was raining last night? I was out on the porch and came up with a whole new idea for a high-speed device.
Really?
Yeah, there's the man.
What does this device do? I don't know. What makes it high speed? I don't know. What is the purpose that this thing is going to solve? I don't know that either. He doesn't tell us. All he says is, I came up with the idea for a new high speed device. Pete shits his pants, and then his dad hands him the paperwork, and he's like, yeah, it's right here. Read it. Check it out. It's all there. He could have showed the audience, or at least explained something about it to the audience, because we are the ones that are watching this and sitting through it and trying to figure out where you're going with all this. His dad goes on to say that whenever it's raining, it makes him want to think and create, and it feels like God's talking to him, but different strokes for different folks.
Love it when it rains. Makes you want to create and think. It's so peaceful. It's like God's talking to you. But different strokes for different folks, I guess.
which that doesn't make any sense at all. Different strokes for different folks is when you're doing something that is like kind of out there. If he would have said, when it rains, I actually like to go for a walk without an umbrella and just let the rain pour on me because I enjoy being wet. It's like God is pouring, it's like God is pouring a bucket of water on my head. That's different strokes for different folks. But saying that you enjoy when it rains because it helps you think, like that's not a different strokes for different folks thing. People love, there are whole like personalities romanticized around it raining. You love to listen to music, or you love to read a good book, or you love to watch a movie, or you love to, like, people love to do things when it's raining outside. They love to stay inside and read or write or play music or listen to music or nap, or like people love doing things when it rains. So, and then right after all this, his dad is like, hey, why don't we go get some ice cream? When's the last time we've done that? And Pete's like, God, it's been 15 years since we've done that. Where did you come up with this idea? One of your new crazy ideas? And then his dad's like, nah, we won't get any ice cream.
Do you mind if we get that ice cream a little bit later? I just came up with some ideas, new numbers for that device.
Why is going to get an ice cream such a crazy, how is that a new crazy idea? You just said you guys used to do it when you were a kid. He used to take you to get ice cream. This is not some crazy new idea. This is something you guys used to do and he just remembered. So put this up there with like poor script, bad dialogue, sin, because this doesn't make sense. You did a great job of making us believe that Pete's dad is an inventor, and you mentioned all the patents that he had. He came out of retirement. He's still inventing and creating things. You didn't have to make it sound like going to get ice cream with his son is something that they used to do all the time. Like him saying it now is like some crazy idea. And then he like gets all upset and doesn't want to go get ice cream anyway. So that could have been cut out. Oh, but wait, when he dies later, he says, we should have went and got that ice cream. So you know what? That it makes sense. Perfect. You know what? They just open a story loop and then later they'll close it. Why are they talking about ice cream right now? I don't know. But later when he dies, he says, I should have had ice cream. He should have been talking about getting his wife's ice cream, if you know what I mean.
Hey, sugar babe.
Oh God, why do I not have 1 million subs already? The jokes, man. You can't stop me from making the jokes. So now we get into the actual main plot of the movie is that his daughter, who he calls Beanie Baby, is going to need a kidney transplant. It starts out with Pete coming home. She's sick. He goes into her room and puts a towel on her head and tries to make her feel better. And then there's an establishing shot of like a beach. And this is another thing that low budget movies do, so they can really hit that feature length film time, is to put in these weird establishing shots. The next morning, Beanie is all better. She cooked breakfast for everybody. There's an abrupt cut right after this, and it goes to the mom at the doctor with Beanie. But she never actually says what's wrong with her at this point. They just walk into the next room and that's it. And then we have a way too long establishing shot of where Pete works. This is one of those weird dialogue transitions that Drew mentioned in his video.
Also, I like how he brings it up too.
Golly.
On a serious note, I got something I want you to say.
Now, if you could be serious for one goddamn second, this is a cup holder you can use outside.
But it really just encapsulates the idea that there are two open thoughts and they're trying to put them together and they don't know how to make them work. The transitions aren't there, so they're just cramming these two ideas together.
If we don't come up with some new products, we're going to lose our next round of financing.
Cash infusion.
No.
Hello? Are you kidding me? I'll be right there.
I'm bleeding to death.
You're what? It's just kidney stones. Don't worry. We're going to take good care of him.
He's what?
You're what just gets me. Him just screaming that. Okay, well, the dad dies. So we'll just move on past that. But I just wanted to watch the part where he says he's bleeding to death.
You're what?
He says, you're what?
It's just kidney stones. Don't worry.
And then the paramedic says, just kidney stones. And he says, sir, what?
He's what?
And we find out he had a double heart attack. It wasn't kidney stones, it was a double heart attack. As he's sitting there watching his dad die, his hand is hanging off the bed and it slowly opens and a note falls down and Pete picks it up. And then it cuts to him sitting in his car looking at a lake while reading the note. And it's a pretty long note. And I'm just when did he write this? Did he write this while he was having kidney stones? How was his fist like clenched the entire time. At no point did anybody like take the note out of his hand. This is like a coincidental plot device that like doesn't make sense. We're relying on coincidences to push the plot forward. And honestly, this doesn't even push the plot forward at all. Yes, this adds like a bit of like depth to Pete's character, and like we know that he's going to be like dealing with the death of his dad and like funeral and all these things on top of Beanie now needing like a kidney transplant. But again, we're like relying on the coincidence that he was able to write this note, or he already had this note written and went to grab it and like put it in his hand. And through this entire event of him having kidney stones, like calling the paramedics, going to the hospital, having back-to-back heart attacks, all of these things, he never once like let go of the note and nobody ever took it from him. That's a pretty big coincidence to rely on for this little scene that again doesn't really push the plot forward. Like Pete's mother could have given him the note and been like, your dad wanted me to give this to you in the event that he died or whatever. And then right after the funeral, his wife drops the news that Beanie needs a kidney transplant and they've got to figure it out. And here is the whole driver of this movie, is that they don't have enough money to pay for the surgery. They need $150,000 to pay for the surgery.
What did the doctor say?
He said that Beanie needs a kidney transplant in the next 4 to 6 months or we may lose her. And he said that the operation is $120,000 and our insurance won't cover it and we're financially out.
Now, I live in America. Healthcare sucks here. So it is definitely realistic that this family would be in this type of medical debt. But what I also know about the healthcare system here is that it's called medical debt for a reason, which means you have the procedure that you need and then you pay it off. Like you have to pay it in installments. I've never heard of a hospital requiring like 100% of your payment before you leave the hospital. Like usually you get a bill in the mail. My family has insurance and I still know we go to the doctor and then we leave and we get a bill in the mail and we have to pay like whatever's left of it. I kind of thought the biggest issue with organ transplants is finding a donor. I feel like that's the biggest issue, not paying for it, but finding a donor. I just feel like it would make more sense, like it would be a stronger story if it had to come down to finding a donor. But you know what? He couldn't dance his way to finding a donor, okay? He's got it, but he can dance his way to make money. So we'll forgive him of that. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna dance to make money, not dance to find a kidney.
$50,000. Because we don't have any savings and my parents don't have any money. And your dad refinanced everything before he passed to pay for the business. And you spent everything that we had on the funeral and I don't know what we're gonna do.
Honey.
And then just following along with the story, they're financially tapped out, so they're $50,000 short. If you need $120,000 and you can put down $70,000 of it, I think the hospital will let you like get by and like make payments on the last $50,000. Then she says they don't have any money, so she says they're financially tapped out. They don't have any savings. Is that before or after paying the $70,000? I'm confused where the $70,000 came into this. Was that their savings and now she's like, she doesn't say we're using the $70,000 from our savings to pay for this, but we still need more. She just says we're financially tapped out. We're $50,000 short. We used all of our savings. Then she says her parents don't have any money. Then she says that his dad refinanced everything they had for the business. What's the business? It's his invention? Like his inventions was a business? What did he have to refinance for the business? It never told us that he was making money off these inventions. He was just sitting around like coming up with ideas. Did he refinance everything he had to like pay for patents? Because I know it mentioned he had a lot of patents and patents are expensive, but like what about the high-speed device? What about that? That ain't making any money? People aren't buying high-speed devices. A lot of things are left open, and this is where low-budget movies like really like shit the bed, because they're just making up all these things with no like research and no connecting webs. Again, there's just like a lack of continuity. Things don't make sense. They're just like relying on these open loops and like drama to try to like push the story forward. Instead, it doesn't make any sense, and we're kind of just left wondering like, what are they talking about?
Thanks. Oh, hey, watch this guy. He calls himself the Iceman. He's the best here.
That is incredible. I have never seen anybody move like that, especially us. You know white men can't dance.
He said it. He said the title of the movie. Pete's friends from work take him out to get him out of the house so he'll quit whining about his dead dad and his sick daughter. Just kidding. So they take him out, they see somebody breakdancing. There's a breakdancing competition where the prize is $40,000 and Pete's going to enter it so he can win the money for his daughter. If you remember correctly, they are $50,000 short. So if he wins this competition, they'll only be $10,000 short. So where are they going to get the other $10,000 from? One of his friends says he has $3,500 in his savings that he can have. And the other guy says that he'll get a personal loan for the remainder. So that makes up the $10,000 that he needs if he wins the dance competition. Now, it doesn't make sense. And I'm not just being like nitpicky here, but like we're relying on too many coincidences and too many things to go right in order for all of this to work. I mentioned like plot devices being overused, and I talked about like coincidences and stuff, but the plot device that they are kind of relying on happening here is actually one of my least favorite plot devices. And it's known as Deus Ex Machina, which means God from the machine, which is like a person or thing that appears or is introduced into a situation suddenly and unexpected that provides an artificial or contrived solution to an apparently insoluble difficulty. The reason I hate this so much is because I feel like it's too heavily relied on, and it just feels lazy in the end. Like it feels very anticlimactic at the end. Marvel movies have been like really bad about doing this. I feel like the last like Iron Man movie and then the Avengers movies like rely on this heavily, and it just always bothered me. The whole time like Tony Stark is getting the absolute shit beat out of him, okay? Just getting his ass stomped into a mud hole in the ground, or whatever it's called. He's getting a mud hole stomped into his ass. His ass is getting just pounded the entire movie. And then suddenly he's just like, oh, if you just like believe in the power of friendship and you flick your crusty nipple 3 times, then it all comes together. And then he just magically defeats the freaking guy who's been hitting his ass with a hammer the whole time. And sometimes this works, but in this movie, they're relying on so many of these things to come together to make this work. They're not even talking about whether they actually need to find a kidney or not, but they're okay, so they've got a kidney. We'll just think about that. He has to win this competition. Okay, I don't even know how far away it is. I know they have to get the kidney transplant in 4 to 6 months, so assuming he's got a few months to like train and get ready for this. He has to win this. He also has to rely on his friend to be able to get a personal loan for the however much is left, the $6,500. And then he also has to rely on his friend like actually giving him the $3,500 he promised he would, and he wasn't just saying that on like a drunk night out. There's just so many of these things that have to go right in order for all this to work. When instead they could just, I don't know, why don't they just take out a loan for the last $50,000? Why don't they just like start a fundraiser or something like that and try to like make it up? Like it seems like there's a lot of ways to like make this work. Like sure, keep trying to do the dance competition, and if you win, then you can pay it off and you only owe $10,000. There's too many things that don't make sense. Why? Like I was like on board with him at first, but then when he's like, okay, I'm gonna put all my time and effort to winning this competition so I can make the money, the stakes don't feel as intense because he still has to come up with $10,000 more. Why didn't they make either the competition worth $50,000, because then all the stakes are there? Why didn't they just make the number that they're short $40,000? Like they should match, because then it all relies on him to win this competition to pay for the surgery. It's way less intense and meaningful when you think about you have to win this competition to pay for some of the surgery, but then you still have $10,000 more. What are you going to do? Is there going to be a Daddy Can't Dance Part 2 where we find out how they come up with the other $10,000? There's no reason that his friends should give him $10,000 to make up for it. It's a movie. You could write it any way you want it. Why not write it where everything relies on you winning this competition? It makes the stakes so much higher, okay? So much higher. I just realized, it looks like I don't know what I got all over my shirt. Usually it's yogurt. I feel like the last few videos I had like a stain on my shirt that's from my daughter and yogurt fingers. And then right after that, Pete gets fired from his job because one of his co-workers claimed that he stole an invention from him. Now this is the drink genie that Pete invented himself and has a patent for. His name would be all over the patent. Okay.
We can't let him steal it. What do you say?
We can put a stop to that right now. He's fired. Call the guards, tell them not to let him in the building under any circumstances. I'm not going to put up with that.
If you want more of like the gags that go into how he gets his job back and like proves that he's innocent, you can watch Drew's video. While he's also training for this, he's also spending time like coming up with like weird costumes and things to wear so that he can sneak back into his job and show his boss the patent paperwork that has his name on it. Okay.
Several minutes trying to get into work disguised as an old man because it's just kind of weird and gross. He keeps farting and threatening to shit his pants. Very funny.
And then after he does that, the guy like his boss makes his coworker work in the mailroom.
And as of today, you're going to start working your way up from the mailroom.
Okay, so he fired Pete for being accused of lying, and then he found out this guy actually was lying, and Pete was in the right. And instead of firing that guy, he just makes him work in the mailroom. He still has a job, he just works in the mailroom. Also, I believe a wrongful termination suit is an option here. He could probably sue his work for, I don't know, $45,000. And then after that, he only has to come up with like $5,000 to pay for the rest of his daughter's surgery. Anyway, this is another weird, like, plot point that doesn't make any sense. Like, why do we need Pete to lose his job? I thought they didn't have any money. So instead of him trying to get a job or just, like, addressing that right away, he spends months trying to sneak back into his job to prove that he was innocent instead of just showing it. If they are financially tapped out and they do not have any money, and they're also about to be $50,000 in debt, and they also have a dying daughter, why didn't Pete just spend that time getting his job back or getting another job? This is another thing that could be cut out from the movie. There's no reason that Pete should lose his job. Yes, I understand the stakes are high and things just keep piling up. His dad died, they had to pay for his funeral, all that, and then their daughter needs a surgery, they don't have enough money. Then he loses his job, and all these things are just stacking up. And all these things are just stacking up. And so, like, it makes the movie, like, more intense. But why, though? Like, yes, his dad dying can happen, and his daughter needing a kidney transplant can happen, and then, like, not being able to come up with the money or, you know, needing the money for it or whatever, that can happen. And maybe, yes, getting fired from your job for being accused of stealing something can happen, too. You have paperwork with your name on it that shows that you got the patent. Also, hold on. While we're talking about this, how does his job work? He has to come up with inventions to present to the board so that they can get funding so they can stay a company. So this company relies on these people coming up with products so that they can get funding so they can stay open as a business. But yet the employees have to patent their own work? Like, how does that work? Because if he patented it, he owns it. Is the company going to license the patent from him? I would think that if they're inventing something on company time, it's probably owned by the company. Either way, he has proof that he did this before. There's no reason to believe that it belongs to anybody else but Pete. After that, he calls up his old dance friends to help him get back in shape so that he can win the contest. There's also like a really weird workout montage that it doesn't feel like it fits into the movie to me, but I could also see this being a Disney Channel thing. Very Disney Channel-esque like type montage here. And then after the montage, Pete has a bad dream where his arms basically go limp and fall down. Like, special effects in this part is actually like really cool and well done.
What is wrong with you?
And if they did more of these like gags throughout the movie, again, this would be a good Disney Channel movie. I think that this has a place on the Disney Channel. I just need somebody else to get on board with me. And then after that, he meets up with the female friend who he has a really weird relationship with. It gets weirder on after this. There's one joke between him and this woman. It's just really weird. It doesn't even feel like a joke. It feels like they're being completely serious. Like, it doesn't feel right with the continuity of the movie because we're led to believe that Pete is this great family man and he loves his family, loves his parents and his daughter and his wife, and he's doing whatever he can to save his daughter's life. And then if you go on to make this kind of joke, it's not in character with Pete. Like, maybe he thought it was a funny joke when he was writing it. It really like breaks character. Like, this is not what Pete would do.
And he's got to lose another 5 pounds.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, you saw him there. 5 pounds right here.
All right, bust it up, bust
right
it
here.
up.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, what
Let's
y'all
go.
doing? Come on, hey, chill out. What you doing? Ain't you married, Pete?
It's all right, man.
I don't care. Let's go around the corner.
Yeah, what do you say?
Yo, that ain't cool. Chill out,
It's
y'all.
all right, it's all right.
Yo, Pete.
Hey, man.
All right.
It's all right, man. Hey, man. We're just playing.
That's cool. That's beat up, y'all. That's wrong.
Hey, man.
What's up?
That's why I love you so much.
Especially after him and his dance crew like pray together. Yeah.
Your gift to us, God, is life. And our gift to you is what we do with it, God.
Meanwhile, his wife is actually worried that he's having an affair, and she's dealing with their daughter and all these things happening and not knowing what they're going to do and where they're coming up with the money. Meanwhile, Pete is like training in secret. He's not telling them that he's dancing in the competition. He's going to like work out. He's like kissing this woman and making like really crude jokes. And his wife is like, I've been praying every night that it's not true. Another big continuity error is that throughout this whole movie, Pete is in pretty good shape. Like, he's not like ripped, but he's also not like this like chubby man, right? Like, he's not like this like chubby dad. But for some reason, in one scene, they show him with like this like belly. And I remember watching it the first time and being like, I don't remember him having a belly like that throughout this movie.
Hey, we got to work with that, huh? Yeah. You ate it all, huh?
It's like a fake belly, and it just pops up in like one scene where it's really like pronounced and obvious. And then later on, he like loses the belly, and he's like, oh, check out, I've lost some weight.
Can you tell I've lost weight? Huh?
Is that where you've been spending so much of your time?
Well, yeah.
Do you feel better now?
It's like a good device to show us how long this is happening. Like, this is going on for months. This movie isn't over the course of a few weeks, it's over the course of a few months, and we can see that because he's losing weight. But why were you not wearing the belly the entire time? Like, was this thought of midway through? Because it shows him like wearing sort of like a tight-fitting shirt and he looks fine. Like, his belly is pretty flat. And then later on, he's got like a big pooch right there. He went on Amazon and bought like just the fupa, you know. Then after that, he loses the fupa so he can show his wife like, hey, check out how much weight I've lost. She's pissed off and upset because, you know, he's suddenly getting in shape and she thinks that it's because he's having an affair. But no, don't worry. He's just like out dancing with his friends and things like that. He's not even joking about having an affair. So, and speaking of affairs, there's this scene where he's like working out and he sees like one of his old friends and she's like, oh, you should come hear me like sing a song sometime. So him and his wife go to eat dinner. First of all, it looks like a pretty nice place. Pete doesn't have a job. They're supposed to be saving money for his daughter's surgery. Does his wife know that he lost his job? No, she doesn't know. She doesn't know what's like going on with him. But they go to like watch this woman sing a song and she sings it and she's like looking at Pete the whole time. And obviously it upsets his wife. Like, I don't understand, why did Pete write this where the whole time he needs to like be like dragging his wife like through hell? She's already like upset about her daughter, obviously, and then they're trying to come up with the money. Why are you doing this to her? I don't get why. She doesn't deserve this. And through the whole movie, he can't tell his wife that he is training for a dance competition to save his daughter's life. He's like, oh, my wife would understand. You know how women are. They wouldn't understand if you're trying to dance.
I was competing in a dance competition to save my daughter's life.
Yeah.
She would absolutely lose it. You know how women are.
Yeah.
If you told her you were gonna dance, one, as long as she knows that you were a break dancer in the past and you have the ability, she would definitely be on your side and be doing whatever she could to support you and help you get ready to win this competition. There would be a huge financial like lift off of her if she knew that you could win this and it would get you like 90% of the money that you needed. So why wouldn't you just tell her? And then she wouldn't wonder like why you're going to the gym and losing all this weight and who you're going and hanging out with. Like, that would just make a lot of the contention in this movie like so much easier. Why are we torturing this woman through this whole movie? She doesn't deserve it. What's one of the weirdest parts is that my first watch of this, I didn't realize that the guy who fired Pete and the guy who fired the other guy who was like accusing Pete of stealing his invention, the guy who stole Pete's invention, I didn't realize that those two guys were different. I thought they were the same person. And when his friend like took him out on a night in the town, I thought those were different people. The guy who asked to bring the fire extinguisher in was the same guy that fired him and the same guy that fired the other guy. And then his friend was just kind of another like other guy. Then I realized they're different, but the guy who fired Pete, I don't even know who that is, like head of the board or something like that. His boss through the whole thing was his friend. So if his boss was friendly enough with him to take him out on a night and even give him $6,500, why didn't he just tell him that that guy stole his invention from him? He has his name on the patent. He could have told him. He knows him well enough to go hang out with him, and that guy knows Pete well enough to give him $6,500. We're just teetering the whole time, and it drives me freaking bonkers. While he did end up telling his wife that he lost his job and got it back, he didn't tell her he was going to be in a dance competition. I still don't know why. His boss and his friends know he's gonna be at a dance competition, but his wife doesn't know. You're doing this to save your daughter. She would be on your side.
You know how women are.
Yeah.
Anyway, she finds out that he is gonna be in the dance competition in the end because her friend that she's been confiding in about how she thought that Pete was cheating on her happens to be at like the club where the dance competition is and calls her. And then so she comes there to see Pete, well, lose the competition. So after all of this, after his dad dying, his daughter needing a kidney transplant, realizing that they're $50,000 short. If he wins this competition, he can make $40,000 of it. His friend is going to give him $3,500 of it. His boss is going to give him $6,500 of it. He gets fired from his job. He calls his friends and starts helping him train. His wife thinks he's cheating on him. He actually gets his job back and finally tells his wife, and his friends are there to support him and everything. And he still hasn't told his wife, but his wife's friend sees him there, and now she knows that something's been going on. After all of that, after we've been drugged through all of this, Pete loses the competition. He does not win. It goes to Iceman, who has been sort of the main protagonist in this movie. He beats him at the end. Pete does not win. What the hell are we going to do? We still need $40,000. Well, don't worry. We're relying on Deus Ex Machina. The Iceman is like, you know what? Like, I don't even care about this competition. You can have it, Pete. It's for your daughter.
Yo, Pete, I think you deserve the trophy, man. And the money.
Super realistic. So Pete is like, thanks, man. Here, I'm going to pass the torch to you. And he gives the trophy back to the Iceman. But he's like, but I'm definitely taking the $40,000 to save my daughter's life. You know, like, okay, I wouldn't blame him. Like, we've all been there. This is a totally normal occurrence where we, spend our entire lives, like, training towards something. And we don't win. And we'll have to learn a lesson from it. Because the person who did win is like, you know what? I think you deserve it. You worked way harder than I did. Here, take the trophy and the huge sum of money that I just won. You take it because you truly deserve it. That happens all the time. Also, the freaking breakdance competition is like 10 minutes long. Like, it's not a montage, it's not clips. Like, at the end of Never Back Down, like, there's an intense fight and you get how intense it is, but you don't watch the whole fight. You're just seeing like the most intense parts. The breakdancing starts at 1 hour and 17 minutes in, and it doesn't end until around 1 hour and 36 minutes in. That is almost 20 minutes of this movie is breakdancing. 20 minutes of this movie is breakdancing. And then at the end, after all that, his like wife and daughter come up to him and they're like so happy. I think she realizes now, it finally all makes sense. He could have told her months ago, but it finally all makes sense that he was doing this to save his daughter's life, because it's what he had to do. He didn't win, of course, but luckily, the Iceman just decided to give him $40,000, so it was all good. And his friends gave him the other $10,000, so, it didn't matter anyway, did it? Oh, speaking of, like, nothing in this movie, like, having any weight whatsoever, after all of that, his wife gets a call from some foundation that says they're going to pay for the entire surgery, so they don't have to come up with any money at all.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no.
And then after the call, the Iceman comes back up and he's like, hey man, we got the money, so we're going to give you the $40,000 back. And the Iceman's nah, like, you just keep it and give it to the next person that needs it.
Bruh. What the fuck?
Who are these characters? These are not people that exist in real life. Like, the Iceman has put in just as much work as Pete has. He won. He deserves that money. $40,000 is a lot of money. So if the Iceman is a professional breakdancer, like, he may not be relying on these competitions to like pay his like wage. So why would he be in these competitions? So he must rely on these to like help him get through. Why is this character written like this? Why is he going to give the money to Pete for Pete to give to the next person who needs it? When would Pete ever meet somebody who needs the money? Like, Napoleon Dynamite is well known as an indie movie that did really well, and it was a low budget, relatively low budget. They had a budget of $400,000, and like half of that went to Jamiroquai to pay for the song Canned Heat. So when you look at that movie, maybe they had more of a budget than Daddy Can't Dance did, but you related to all of the characters in like some way. Like, yes, there were obviously like characters who were very like hyperbolic, or like situations that were very hyperbolic, and they didn't have like a complete world built out. There were things that you kind of had to fill in for yourself, but the things you had to fill in for yourself, you could conceive those things, like they made sense. You only see his grandma for a split second, and then when Uncle Rico comes into town to take care of him, it's because grandma broke her coccyx while she was riding at the dunes with her boyfriend. Napoleon is confused, like, what was she doing at the dunes? I didn't know she had a boyfriend. And Uncle Rico says, a lot you don't know about your grandma, or something like that. But then they show like a clip of like somebody going over the dune and falling off of a four-wheeler and hurting themselves. But while that is like very wild situation, and Napoleon doesn't know what's going on, and it's kind of like a weird thing that's included in there that maybe doesn't relate to anything else. It is like conceivable that could happen. Like, I have some pretty crazy grandparents and relatives. But also, like, I mean, I could just see like somebody with their like, having a crisis later in life, or like meeting like somebody, you know, after being divorced or after their like spouse has died and they haven't had like a love interest in many years, and then like meeting somebody and just being like all into whatever they're doing. So grandma meets some guy, he loves to go out to the dunes and ride, you know, four-wheelers or quads or whatever. She gets into that and she gets a little too crazy and hurts herself. Like, that's a believable situation. Everything that happens in this movie is almost completely unbelievable. I can't relate to any of these characters at all. I've never heard of anybody who lost their job wrongfully and could easily explain why they're innocent and get their job back, and just chose not to, and instead wanted to like go and like play dress up and pretend to be somebody else to like sneak back in. Like, that is a little hyperbolic, and that could actually be kind of like a funny like plot point. And it's one of those things that you have to like get past common sense. Like, not all movies have common sense completely throughout it. This whole movie could have happened and Pete didn't lose his job and it would end the exact same way. So it's just added things in that don't make any sense like whatsoever, other than to like add another woman into Pete's life so that his wife can like stay up all night wondering where he is and if she's being cheated on while their daughter is dying. Like, people don't act like that. It's not pushed far enough into fantasy for me to like be able to believe it. Like, what makes movies so intense is the stakes. At the end of this movie, I realized there was no stakes at all. And the stakes they tried to present in this movie were overly like fabricated in a weird way. The stakes were his daughter needed money for her surgery. What's getting in the way? They don't have the money, or he loses his job. Like, you know, he could have lost his job in a different way and the stakes would have been very high. Stakes were he needed to win this competition and all these things, and he added additional drama by not telling his wife. That was unnecessary. We didn't need that. Just him needing to win this competition to save his daughter's life was a pretty big stake. That was all we needed. After all that, we find out that it was all an illusion, because the Iceman was going to give him the money even if he lost, and there was another company that was going to pay for it, so he could have lost anyway. It just doesn't follow a good narrative. Like, you're losing me throughout the whole thing. There's no clear happy ending for this, because everything bad that could happen was like resolved in like a weird way that relied entirely on something to just magically happen to make it work. So, how many sins did you guys count? I wasn't really keeping account, but I'm sure I would have lost count if I was actually keeping count. But when I look at movies like this, I realize why there are some bad movies that become cult classics and why there are some bad movies that just sort of fade away. That'll be about it for this. This is, I hope you guys enjoyed my first attempt at movie roasting. I know that it's a little bit longer. It probably went on a little bit too long. But I definitely want to do these with like certain movies. I don't want to become just like a movie review channel, but it's definitely something that I enjoy doing, is like roasting movies like this. What is like a really bad movie that you've seen that you would love to see like reviewed and roasted in this way? Also, eventually want to start live streaming some of these reviews. I've got to figure out how all that works. I would just love to like live stream some of these bad movies and like talk through them. So if you guys want to have a bad movie watching party with me, let me know and I will make that happen soon, maybe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I want to give another huge shout out to Micael Foster for making this dope outro song that's probably playing right now. I wanted to start like building out my channel more and have music and things that are mine, so I'm not relying solely on like royalty-free music that exists out there. Like, I want to have things that are actually mine and make this channel more and more unique to me. So big shout out to him. I just sent him a message one day and we started working on it, and he was really cool about the feedback and helped me like figure out what exactly I wanted to be captured in this sound and what I want it to sound like, and it sounds amazing, and I'm super thrilled with it. So another big shout out to him. He helped me use one of his other songs in the last video, and that was also super cool. He told me he was working on an album. I don't know exactly how much he wants me to say about it, or if he wants me to say anything at all, but he is working on an album, so definitely go follow him on Spotify so that you can hear it as soon as it drops, because it's going to be incredible. But anyway, guys, thank you again so much. I will see you guys next time. Stay wacky, stay wild, and keep on breaking it down. All right, bye.